On Sunday, December 8th, 1963, Rodney Fox, champion of the South Australian spearfishing competition in 1962, was out attempting to do so again to repeat as South Australian champion. Rodney was in the location of Aldinga Beach doing his spearfishing at the time of this attack. He's out in the water. He's already got this thing sewed up, so he's going to be two-time back-to-back spearfishing champion for South Australia. Very good spearfisherman. They have fish floats tied to them, fish lines tied to them, so he obviously has a fish on his line. And they have boats that come around and take these fish from you because there was problems with the sharks in the years past in the competitions. So they put patrol boats out there that go around and they get the fish from the fishermen. Rodney, it sounds like, still had this fish on his line, and it's just about 12:45. There's about an hour left in the tournament. He is in the water and he's in a bad position. He is at a drop off that goes from 7 meters to 18 meters. So you're talking 25 feet to about 65 feet. And that's a bad area because a lot of great whites like to use that hidden area to ambush prey. So he's out there and he says he feels a dead calm at 12:45. Everything goes still and he says it's a eerie silence. And just then he's hit from the left like a truck, like a train hit him. And he knew immediately as he's being pushed through the water that it was a shark. The thing was, is it knocked off his goggles with the force of the hit, knocked his goggles off. Water is going through past his face so fast he can't see anything that's going on. But he knows that it's a shark. So he goes ahead and he reaches behind him and tries to get to the eye. As he does this, the shark releases him. Now, when the shark releases him, Rodney needs to get up and get some air. He was under the surface during this time. And he starts swimming up to the surface, and he says the whole way he could feel the shark on his swim fins. So as he's going to the surface, he can feel that the shark's still there. He gets up there and takes a gulp of air and notices that he feels the shark's hide, the rough sandpaper-like hide up against his body. So it sounds like the shark is coming up right along the side of him, rubbing up against him. He does what he thinks that he needs to and wraps his arms around this shark. Now the shark is going to take him to the bottom of the water, and it takes him down to the seafloor, and it rubs him off some rocks and off some weeds. Now the pressure on him in the first bite was so bad that he said that he felt like his organs were shifted to the other side of his body, the pressure from this bite. And it's right underneath the armpit, as he was obviously extended when he was hit, and it just goes into his chest and back out, and everything was opened up. But he didn't know this at the time. He said as soon as the shark released him the first time and he got up to the surface, he could tell that he had a ton of pain. You know, it was a relief that he wasn't still in the shark's mouth, but the pain started hitting him almost immediately once he was released. That pressure changed from pressure to pain from the bite. And that'll be from the damage that this bite ended up doing. So as the shark has him and he's got the shark around the sides, shark rubs him off the bottom and he starts running out of air, and he lets go of the shark now and he swims to the surface. He gets to the surface and gets his air, and now he sees the shark coming at him fast. It's coming at him. He says he is about to freak out, and just last second it turned to the left, grabbed onto his fish that was on the fish line, and started swimming off. And now Rodney is dragged under the water again by the line to his fish that the shark is swimming off with, and he's dragged a good 10-20 yards before the line luckily snaps. Whether he says he doesn't know whether the shark bit into it, which is probably most likely, or that, you know, the pressure of his body, the resistance, just broke the line itself. Either way, he's freed again and he gets back up to the surface. He yells shark. Patrol boat's right there, gets him and gets him onto the boat. He was sitting there in his own blood the whole time when he was sitting there waiting, and the shark came at him and grabbed onto his fish float. So he had been bleeding profusely this whole time from the first bite. So they get him up on the boat and they start to do some work on him, and they knew from a prior incident, like I said, they had problems with sharks at these competitions before, and prior they took off the wetsuit, and that keeps from holding things where they're supposed to be and skin where it is supposed to be. And this is vital. They kept the suit on Rodney and kept pressure on. Rodney had it opened up from his back all the way into the front of his chest. His lungs were exposed. His lung was punctured. It was just a gruesome attack, and his organs exposed. He gets in and he goes ahead, not only survives this, but goes back out to do what he loves to do, goes back to spearfishing, becomes a shark advocate. Just one of the craziest stories still to this day. David Miles intelligence type story, where you know what to do when you're hit by the shark. David Miles knew not to fight. Here Rodney knew he had to fight. I had this down in our stats for the show as an attempt to predate back when I covered this, and I covered this very early. But I just changed that. That's not an attempt to predate. What I think, especially with the white sharks, you know, a lot of these ones with like smaller sharks and bull sharks, and a person gets hit on the leg when it was going for the fish that was on the float that's by the leg, yeah, that's one thing. But I think this is a deliberate territorial attack to clear the area, and then it's going to go after that fish. So I think it purposely was just going to get Rodney out of the way and get the fish it wanted. It was going to get rid of the competition. So I changed that from an attempt to predate to a non-fatality, and to a non-attempt to predate, and just a crazy story. And lucky for him that he thought to grab onto that shark, because you never know if it's going to keep biting on you. Omar Conger, who we will go over in one of these single attack stories in the future, he ended up being bitten up 4 or 5 times as the shark kind of chomped on him. Didn't remove any flesh, but kept biting him. And what it did was took him from his buddy. They were, I believe it was spearfishing too, but they were in the water. Took him away from his buddy, chomped on him, and brought him back and just dropped him off right to his buddy. And he passed away from his wounds. I believe before he even hit the beach, he was bitten up so bad. But again, that was not anything for feeding. That was just a mad shark. So that's what I think happened here, is the shark wanted to clear Rodney out of the area, get his fish without any problems from Rodney, and that's what ended up happening. The fact it was at that drop-off makes me think twice as likely that that's the case. So I made the change in the stats. That's the story of Rodney Fox, one of the craziest stories. Back-to-back spearfishing, South Australia spearfishing champion, and he did so on the same day he got attacked by an 11 to 12 foot great white shark. So again, you're talking a shark that's changing over from fish to mammals. It's in that 10, 11, 12 foot range, where they go ahead and they start changing what they're eating. And a lot of times people used to think, well, they're biting them because they don't know. Well, I don't believe that's the case. I think they're biting them territorial. I think these sharks know what we are long before they get to 10, 12 feet. They all have their nurseries close to shores. So I'm not of the mind that these sharks aren't seeing us all the time. That's the story of Rodney Fox. Attack, not an attempt to predate, and a survival of just one of the worst bites you've ever seen for a single shark attack bite.